So, hello everyone, and welcome to Online Girls Royalty and Men Royalty Bible Study. I'm really excited about tonight. I'm excited about all the things that we're going to learn tonight. I'm just really excited again, just about this teaching. It's going to be for the entire month of April. And hopefully, we're kind of in the works about extending it to a 2 month study. But it is definitely going to be a great time. Just dive into the Word. I think it is also a great twist on maybe what you may have read before, or maybe you've never read this passage. And we're actually going to be looking at several
So hello
passages.
everyone.
So I'm just going to, I had something else open, but we're going to get started. And first of all, we do want to welcome the men. And I know the men, we've been very excited about this joint collaboration with Men of Royalty, with Girls of Royalty. And this is going to be our very first co-ed study. So what that means is that if you're a member of Girls of Royalty and if you're a member of Men of Royalty, and you can sign up for those respective groups by going to girlsroyalty.com or menofroyalty.com, and you'll be able to become a member. And one of the benefits about membership is really the study material that we release. We release great and amazing study material at the beginning of each month. And if you're a member, you get that for free. So you get the free materials. And I know for a lot of the ladies, you've been waiting so that, you and your husband, maybe it's your boyfriend, maybe it's your brother, your friend, a coworker, that you guys can study together. And we have been working very hard, and we're very excited about this new series where we're this is something hopefully that we can carry on in the future, where all of our studies can be jointly done, especially, like the general ones that can apply to both male and female. And for a while, Girls Royalty, we've been teaching series that really apply to really to each sex, to the men as well as the women. So again, we're just very excited about this, and we're going to get started. So this week's topic is Dinner Etiquette 101 with Jesus. And with this study, I'm telling you, we're really twisting the whole idea, and with this teaching. And we're going to go into the passage, and we're going to look at really on how Jesus carried himself and how he believed that we should carry ourselves. And of course, the topic or the title of this theme is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And you're gonna get the title once we get into the study. I guarantee you're gonna get the whole idea and just this whole series. And we're really gonna be looking at just several instances where Jesus was in the midst of people, and he was able to turn what was happening around him into key lessons. Okay, and so week's title is called Dinner Etiquette 101 with Jesus. And this is what we're going to be learning, at least tonight, okay? We'll be learning a few things tonight, and of course it's going to carry on into next week. But this is what we're going to learn tonight. We're going to be talking about how honor requires honor. We'll be talking about servanthood and the path to leadership, the heart of a giver, and the key to winning souls. And you're going to learn about, well, what is a misfit? Maybe you already know what that means. But I'm going to tie it into tonight's teaching so that you can really understand what the misfit is according to the passage that we're going to read. And so the theme passage for this entire series is based off of Luke 14. It's a passage based out of Luke 14. And it's 7 through 14 is for this theme. And you're going to see why. And so we're going to read this passage. I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to try to be as slow as possible. I know that I talk very fast, but we're going to try to start slow, and then we're going to move out, okay? Okay, so we're going to start at Luke 14, and we're going to read 7 through 14. So it says, he went on to tell a story to the guests around the table. Noticing how each had tried to elbow into the place of honor, he said, when someone invites you to dinner, don't take the place of honor. Somebody more important than you might have been invited by the host. Then he'll come and call out in front of everybody, you're in the wrong place. The place of honor belongs to this man. Red-faced, you'll have to make your way to the very last table, the only place left. When you're invited to dinner, go and sit at the last place. That when the host comes, he may very well say, "Friend, come up to the front." That will give the dinner guest something to talk about. What I'm saying is, if you walk around with your nose in the air, you're going to end up flat on your face. But if you're content to be simply yourself, you will become more than yourself. Okay, let's keep on reading. Then he turned to the host. The next time you put on a dinner, don't just invite your friends and the family, and rich neighbors, the kind of people who will return the favor, but invite some people who never get invited out, the misfits from the wrong side of the tracks. You'll be and experience a blessing. They won't be able to return the favor, but the favor will be returned. Oh, how it will be returned at the resurrection of God's people. And so again, the title for this week is Dinner Etiquette 101, right? And so I'm sure you can just guess what's happening. What we're seeing here is a dinner party, okay? We're seeing where Jesus is at a dinner table. He's actually invited to, this is not just an ordinary dinner though, okay? This is really a dinner party where it's not for the regular folk. Okay, it's not for the regular folk. Where Jesus is right now, he's actually at a dinner table with those in high society. Okay, really, he's with the top leaders. He's with those who were the Pharisees, of course. And if you're familiar with the Pharisees, they were the ones that carried out the Mosaic law. You know, they really upheld the Jewish tradition, and everyone at this particular dinner, this was kind of one of those things where you invited people to really do what they call a people staring, you know, where, you know, you kind of they're just a people watch, you know. And the subject of the meal was Jesus. Everyone at that table was there to see what Jesus was going to do, what he was going to say, how was he going to act. You know, they just want to kind of nitpick him. And so Jesus knew what kind of dinner this was. Jesus was intelligent. You know, he wasn't a man that, you know, was unaware. You know, this is Jesus. You know, he was very much aware of what was going on. And so he knew that these people were looking at him. And so in the beginning of Luke 14, if you read earlier in verses 1-6, you're going to see that, you know, there was this man there and, you know, he actually had a issue with his body. And so it was the Sabbath. Okay, so this was a Sabbath meal. And if you're familiar with the Jewish tradition, you're not supposed to do anything on the Sabbath, right? And for Jesus, that was it wasn't that it was an issue. It was just that they believed that you weren't supposed to do anything, and that included healing the sick, you know, raising the dead, you know, healing the blind eyes. Basically what Jesus came to do, they believe he could not do on Sabbath. You know, it's your time to rest. But what Jesus was trying to explain to these people was, remember, Jesus was trying to change their mindset. And so what he was trying to explain to these people was that, you know what, I understand relaxing, I understand all that. But when people need help, don't use the Sabbath as an excuse not to help people. And so he heals the people right in front of them, and the people are looking at him like, what's going on? And so, you know, he tells them, well, are you saying that I can't heal anyone on the Sabbath? What? And so it's almost like saying, you know, okay, well, if anything bad happens, are you to say that I can't help someone? And of course, they didn't want to seem like a bad person. So, you know, no one could respond. And so then Jesus takes this opportunity, right? And so he's looking around. Jesus is gauging the scene, okay? He's looking around. He's seeing how people are responding, okay? And so what he sees is that there are people who are trying to basically look like they're the big boss, look like they're the big shot. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with being a person who has power, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. But the issue comes into play where your main focus is just to be in the front. You know, your main focus is just to be in the spotlight. You know, you're not really worried about helping anybody. You're not really worried about spreading God's love. You just want to be in the front just to say that you're in the front. You just want the spotlight just so that the light can shine on you. And that is where the issue lies. And so what we see here is that the idea of honor, Jesus correctly explains it. You know, so here we see people trying to elbow their way into the crowd. And Jesus, he confronts us by giving us his etiquette 101, you know, basically telling us, you know, no, this is really how you need to act. And so what we see here is that honor is gained through humility. right? Honor is gained through humility. Well, how do we know that? Well, if we look back at the passage in Luke 14, 7 through 14, sorry, Luke 14, 7 through 14, he tells them, if we look right here, right, it says, noticing how each had tried to elbow to the place of honor. You know, it was basically how they were trying to push themselves in. He says, when someone invites you to dinner, don't take the place of honor. Okay, basically what he's saying is, you know, don't always act like you're the big shot, because there may be someone bigger in the room than you. You know, it's almost like acting like you're the wisest person in the room. And there's a very popular quote that if you're the wisest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? Because you shouldn't be the wisest or the smartest person. You know, you always want to be that person learning. But even if you are important, even if you do, you know, if you have a lot of accolades and you've achieved much, it's the idea where, again, you don't put yourself in that place. Someone else can raise you up to that place, but never put yourself in that place and say, oh, look at me. And so what we see here is that people who are not humble, it says, you know, Jesus says, what I'm saying is if you walk around with your nose in the air, you're going to end up flat on your face. But if you are content, if you're content to be simply yourself, you will become more than yourself. Wow. Look at that. So let's go here. Again, honor. The first point is that honor is gained through humility. Remember that Jesus took on the form of a servant to do what? Serve humanity. And then, remember how we talked about in the previous passage, remember how we're just looking at the passage where Jesus says, you know, if you love yourself, basically says here, if you're content to be simply yourself, you'll become more than yourself. So this is here, God loves his creation. And when we honor his creation, he can use us in a greater measure. Okay, so here's the thing. God made us in his image, right? And in his likeness. We know this based upon Genesis 1. We know that when he formed us, well, actually, we'll put it like this. Well, in Genesis 1, we know that he formed the world. And, you know, we know that whatever he made, it was good. As we go through the book of Genesis 1, 2, 3, we see God beginning to form multiple things from humans to animals. But what we do know and adjust is that it was good, right? And so he knows that we are in his image. We were made like him. And so he wants us to appreciate the good thing, which is the way that he's made us to be. But when we're so busy trying to be like somebody else, we can't honor what God's created us to be. And so what we need to do is we need to start looking at some passages. I think it's time for us to really analyze and look at God's word and see how we can become more humble. You may say, oh, I'm already humble. I'm a humble person. I know I'm humble. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with reading more about humility. There's nothing wrong with going back into the word and just looking back over scriptures. You know, I always find it funny when people bring up certain topics and they, oh, I already know that. Well, you know, there's nothing wrong with rejogging your memory. There's nothing wrong with going back into the word again and seeing what he says. It may be a good refresher for you. And so again, let's look at a particular passage. I want us to look at Philippians 2, 3 through 11. Again, that is Philippians 2, 3 through 11. Now remember, it says Jesus took on the form of a servant to serve humanity, right? That's the first point in this slide. Honor is gained through humility. We're going to see exactly how this is applied. Again, that's Philippians 2, 3 through 11. Okay, so I'm going to give you some time just to get that out. Again, that's Philippians 2, 3 through 11. Okay. Again, if you have your phone, you should have the Bible app. We hope that you can have the Bible app, and if you're on your desktop or your computer, you can easily pull out, the different Bible browsers and things like that. So let's go to Philippians. Okay, we're done talking about this. Let's turn into Philippians. Okay. Okay, so we're looking again, Philippians 2, 3 through 11. I'm going to read in the Message version. The reason why I read the Message version so much for a lot of people, some people wonder why, is because I feel like it's a very easily translated version for people who maybe are new to the Bible or new to the Word. And remember, my goal is always that we will save souls. And so, you know, I'm not always going to give out the King James Version. Some people say one version is better than the other, it's the more original. But technically, the King James Version isn't the most original. It was just the first one where we actually got a very well done published version by King James himself, because he wanted a Bible to be made, if we're really going to go there. But again, I think that any version that you can take hold to yourself, that can help you better understand the word, I think that's the best version for you. Okay, so we're going to look at the Message version, and let's look at Okay, let's look at. I'm gonna start from verse 3 through 11. Okay, but I'm actually gonna start through verse 1. Okay, I'm gonna start. So I'm going to actually read 1 through 11. Okay, it's not on the slide. Okay, you'll have to turn to it yourself, but I'll read it for you. If you've got anything at all out of following Christ, if his love has made any difference in your life, if being in a community of the Spirit means anything to you, if you have a heart, if you care, then do me a favor. Agree with each other, love each other, be deep-spirited friends. Don't push your way to the front. Don't sweet talk your way to the top, but put yourself aside and help others get ahead. Don't be obsessed with getting your own advantage. Forget yourselves long enough to lend a helping hand. Think of yourselves the way Christ Jesus thought of himself. He had equal status with God, but didn't think so much of himself that he had to cling to the advantages of that status no matter what. Not at all. When the time came, he set aside the privileges of deity and took on the status of a slave, being human. Having become human, he stayed human. It was an incredibly humbling process. He didn't claim special privileges. Instead, he lived a selfless, obedient life and then died a selfless, obedient death. And the worst kind of death at that, a crucifixion. Because of that obedience, God lifted him high and honored him far beyond anyone or anything ever. So that all created beings in heaven and on earth, even those long ago dead and buried, will bow and worship before this Jesus Christ and call out and praise that he is the master of all, to the glorious honor of God the Father. I think this is just such a perfect subject too, because we're coming right out of Easter, right? We're coming right after Resurrection Sunday. I know Easter is the pagan term, but we're coming right out of the Resurrection Sunday, and Jesus and honoring his death and also his resurrection. And so we're coming at a time where we really are looking at his sacrifice and the idea of truly serving and being humble. Jesus had every instance to bring up. And he did bring up at some point, hey, I'm my kingdom is not here on earth. He gave several instances, but people, they didn't believe him. They thought he was just some crazy guy, came from the sky, just talking a bunch of mess. And of course, we found out that definitely was not the truth. Jesus was the real deal. But for a lot of people, they could not grasp the whole idea of Jesus. And the funny thing is that Jesus had every chance to prove. I mean, if Jesus wanted to, he could. Matter of fact, even when I had something that stuck. But even when Jesus was with the was in the desert place, and he was fasting, and the enemy tries to come and tempt him. He said, "Look, you could have a whole bunch of angels come rescue you now, because it's Jesus, he could do it. He could be on the cross, and if he wanted to, he could have a whole bunch of angels shut down the whole thing right there, right? But he didn't do that. He wasn't so quick to show off who he was. And so for a lot of people, we're so quick to show off who we are when really we just need to let Jesus have the spotlight. We just need to let him do his thing within us and not be so focused on, and being this person that is just trying to show off. Really, if we're just who we are, if we just relish in the fact that, I'm just going to be who God called me to be, then really who he's made you to be will shine out even more, and that's again where it says that he can use us in a greater measure. We have to focus on how God can use us, within who he's made us to be, within our qualities, within our characteristics, even within our flaws, because even within our flaws, there's a testimony. There's a story, there is inspiration, there's motivation for even other people besides ourselves. And so it's just very important that we can even see how God, he really loves us and he loves who he's made us to be. And again, we have to treasure that, okay? And so again, we have to understand that God honors those that love who he created them to be. And so here's my question to you. How can God take and do these wonderful things with you if you're busy changing who he's made you to be? We spend so much time trying to be someone else. and we pray, God, use us. And God's saying, well, where are you? You know, I'm trying to use you, but you've tried to erase everything that I've made you to be. And so it's kind of hard for us to cry, oh God, you know, use me. God, I want you to use me. God, I want you to do whatever you need to do with me. And God's saying, well, obviously you don't, because if you did, you would have left who you were right there so that I could use that, because whatever you're making yourself into now, that's not you. And so this kind of just points back to our topic and to these questions again, is that we have to relish in the fact, look, I am who I am, and God made me just like this, and I love me, you know. And this is not a thing just for the women, this thing for the men too. You know, I think so many times too for the men, you know, we get, I think, you know, as women, sometimes we, you know, I love me, but I think for the men too, you have to learn how to love yourself. You know, I think so many times there are so many pressures on men. You know, there are many pressures on women as well, and there's pressures on men, you know, to uphold their communities, to do all these types of things. And we kind of make these Superman figures in our head. And what we fail to realize is that if you are not confident in who you are, you can't lead a community. You can't lead a generation. You can't lead your sons or your daughters. You can't lead your household. You can't even lead your wife, you know, and you can't lead your friends, or you can't be a leader if you do not understand the potential that God has put on the inside of you. Okay. So again, that is just very important. Very, very, very important. Okay, let's proceed. So as we're moving on, okay, we have to understand that when it comes to servanthood, as we're looking at Jesus was the perfect, he was the perfect mascot when it came to being a servant. And what we have to understand too is that Jesus was the ultimate leader. He wasn't just the ultimate servant. He was the ultimate leader because he was the ultimate servant. And that is true leadership. True leadership, when we look at leadership, when we look at leading people to Christ, and sometimes people say, oh, well, I'm not a leader. Well, here's my thing. Every one of us leads in a certain kind of capacity. You may lead your family. You may lead maybe you guide people at your job. You know, maybe in some kind of capacity, you're a leader. I don't care what anyone says, you're a leader. And whether you have a younger sibling, even if you're the youngest, you know, there are always people looking at you to, you know, basically see, you know, what are they doing and how are they doing it? You know, I want to see how they're doing. And people, you may not realize it, but they're actually going to mock you. They're going to copy, you know, people look up to you. And sometimes we think that we have to see it in order for it to be done. Oh, well, I don't see anyone following me. But many times you'll never know it, you know, until you see your kind of your watermark on someone else. Like, wait, that kind of looks like me. So again, we have to realize that in order to lead, and even if we don't think we're leading, so many times you're indirectly leading. So anyway, to lead, you have to know how to serve. And if you don't know how to serve, then don't worry about leadership, because it won't happen. But I think it's important that we have to take as much advantage of God's word that we can, you know. So why not learn how to be a good leader? You know, why not? You know, so who cares if, you know, you're not a CEO, you don't have the top. No, people lead in every capacity. So we must learn how to serve. So we have three particular scriptures right here. James 4:6, John 3:30, Romans 11 and 18. And what we're looking at is this: servant-like thinking brings you to the front of the table. It's not leader-like thinking. You know, it's servant-like thinking. Leader-like thinking thinks in the front, you know, and I think what we have to first put out is this. We're not saying that leadership is wrong. What we're saying is that correct leadership, God type leadership, Jesus type leadership leads with a servant's heart first. And I think that for many people, you know, we don't want you to twist this. We don't want you to think that, oh, you're trying to say, no. What we're trying to say is that you have to, if you want to lead like Jesus. Now, if you want to lead like the world, then you know what? You want to think leading first. But if you want to lead like Jesus, you have to think, wait, servant leading first, servant heart first. And so again, we have James 4:6, John 3:30, and Romans 11:18. And these scriptures are for you to study on your own. We're actually not going to go into them, but we wanted to give you some scriptures for you to look over, just for you to go into a personal study. So, you know, we encourage all of our viewers, all of our audience, all of our members, you need to have a notepad or a pen or something, a pencil, so that you can write down. And of course, when you get your study guide, you'll be able to carry these scriptures over. So again, that's James 4:6, John 3:30, and Romans 11:18. Okay, so let's keep on going. What we have to realize, and I'm going to say this over and over again, is that you have to start in the back to get to the front. It's no skipping steps. Serving, and when it comes to serving people, you don't get to skip. Matter of fact, serving is when you don't skip. It's when you say, you know what, I'm going to sit in the back and I'm completely fine. And whenever it comes my turn, that's fine. But until I get to the front, I will continue working in the back. See, a lot of us, we want to skip around. We want to make shortcuts. We want to go here and here. And what we fail to realize is that servanthood perfects your leadership ability. Because when you're serving people, you're getting to know who they are. You're getting to know how to serve them. You're getting to know their strengths. And you're getting to know their weaknesses. As you serve people, you get to know their taste, their dislikes, how they operate. And when you begin to know that, you begin to understand how to lead people. And more importantly, how to lead your household, how to lead your family, how to be a great mother, how to be a great father. You get to learn on how to be effective in your community. You get to learn how to serve in your church. Many times we're so quick to try to skip to the front that we don't realize is that, people who sweep, in the auditoriums. It's the people who put the light bulbs in their churches when everyone has left and gone. It's the people who take the trash out after everyone's eaten at the table. It's the people who wash the dishes once everyone's gone. It's those types of people that many times we think are just, they're just doing their job, but we're so quick to eat the table, but we don't want to serve. We don't want to serve the food. We don't want to. And so we have to realize that those are the times where that's where the true development is. Eating at a table, is really should be the end result of the work that you put in at the beginning. But a lot of us, we just want to eat the table, but we don't want to do the work beforehand. And so again, we have to think of we have to change our mindsets from leading into serving, not being the person that's trying to edge our elbows to get to the front, like Jesus said in the earlier passage, but really being people who are saying, you know what, don't worry about me. Don't even worry. No, I'll sit back here and it's fine. And people will begin to see how humble you are. And you never want to, and the thing is, you can't really serve fake. You can't really serve with a fake type mentality because it won't last. You'll end up getting out. Because you have to have a true heart to serve. And so what we see is, here's a perfect example. We're going to look at Mark 10, 35 through 45. Okay, we're going to look at Mark 10, 35 through 45. And this is another example. This is really another example where we're going to see Jesus in another example, and there are some people, disciples, and people just around him, and we talk about honor as well. And I thought, wow, this is another great passage for us to look at when it comes to honor and humility. So let's look at it. James and John, Zebedee's sons, came up to him. They came up to Jesus. And they said, "Teacher, we have something we want you to do for us." "What is it? I'll see what I can do." This is Jesus. They said, "You know what? Well, arrange it," they said, so that we will be awarded to the highest places of honor in your glory. One of us at your right and the other at your left. Jesus said, "You have no idea what you're asking. Are you capable of drinking the cup I drink, of being baptized in the baptism I'm about to be plunged into?" "Sure." They said, "Why not? Why not?" Jesus said, "Come to think of it, well, you will drink the cup I drink and you will be baptized in my baptism. But as to the awarding places of honor, that's not my business. There are other arrangements for that." And when the other 10 heard of this conversation, they lost their tempers with James and John. Jesus got them together to settle things down. "See, you've observed how godless rulers throw their weight around," he said. "And when people get a little power and how quickly, it said, when people get a little power, how quickly it goes to their heads. It's not going to be that way with you. Whoever wants to be great must be a servant." Okay. "And whoever wants to be the first among you must be your slave." Okay. "That is what the Son of Man has done. He came to serve, not to be served, and then to give away his life in exchange for those who are held hostage." So, of course, I do want to clarify. Some of you may say slave. No. Okay, let me just quickly clear that what that means. He basically just means servant. Okay, he means servant. And he does not mean where you're enslaved, like you can't go anywhere. Really what he's saying is where you're committed entirely to the cause, to the cause of people. And I believe that each one of us has the responsibility to spread God. So we all have the responsibility to tell people about Jesus Christ. We all have the responsibility to show what it means to be a true Christ follower, what it really means to be in love with God. And so here, Jesus is showing us dinner etiquette 101. He's showing us, based upon a dinner, just exactly how we are to operate with one another, how we are to carry ourselves when it comes to being the greatest, or, operating with the idea of humility. What we're seeing here is that, when it comes to serving, I should see how I can help other people, right? And so, again, we're seeing the mindset of Jesus, how he thinks about leadership. He says here, godless rulers throw their weight around. How many times have you been, I'm a huge Instagram fan. I love Instagram. And when I go on Instagram a lot, even actually last night, I had to clean my followers. I'm still in the process. I'm about to unfollow a lot of people because I had to clean my newsfeed, my timeline, because what I was feeding my spirit was, I'll give her an example. Right, even when when I'm talking about feeding my spirit, I'm in a place of really trying to get my mindset into correct leadership. I am all about right now about, God-like leadership, leading like Jesus. I really want to be that person that helps other people, learn how to lead like Jesus. And so lately, I've been following a lot of leaders, speakers, all types of people, and inspirational accounts, and just types of accounts that, where they are encouraging people to be their greatest and things like that. But what I began to see was, as I began to get more and more in God's word and more into reading, how God operates and how Jesus came down here, how he served people, I began to see how distorted a lot of these accounts were, because the whole focus was on getting to the next level so that you can accomplish great things. And see, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with accomplishing great things. But when we lose focus of Jesus, and we lose focus on the fact that he's the one that elevates us, then we begin to push ourselves to the forefront, to the light, not letting God be the light. And that's where the issue lies. And so I was like, oh man, I get up every morning, I'm looking at them, I'm getting encouraging myself, but I was feeding my spirit godless type leadership where, I was basically seeing people throw their weight around, just like Jesus said, oh, I'm the greatest, oh, I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and I'm doing this, and I'm like, wait, well, how many, none of these people are telling people about Jesus. And so, and I'm not here to say that, there aren't great leaders who are not Christians. I think that there are people who have made a wonderful mark on the world, but I do believe that they could have made an even greater mark if they knew God, because I believe that God could have taken them to even higher heights than they would have accomplished. But still, therein lies the fact, though, of the idea of leadership and God leadership, and what we allow to come into our spirits of leadership. Of how are we viewing people lead? Are they leading to where I'm like, oh, hey, I'm this, and hey, I'm that, and oh, I got it going on, or is it more of where, Jesus and God, he's working through me so that I can share on how you can be successful in God, or how you can lead like God, or how, is Jesus the center when you go to these people's accounts, or is it where it's like me? And so what we see here is that Jesus is saying, look, it's the servant that gets put in the front. It's the person that is working hard for others that gets put in the front. And Jesus was never saying that you have to neglect yourself. He wasn't saying that, you just have to throw your whole self away. But no, what he's saying is that you just cannot be that person that is so focused on yourself that you don't have the heart for other people, And so what we see here is the idea of giving, right? And again, what we set in our forefront is that honor requires honor, right? Servanthood in the path to leadership, the heart of a giver. And what we're going to go over right now is the heart of a giver. And I think that this is really a great intro into what we're going to go through next week, and the key to winning souls and the misfit. But what we see here, is really, even when we go back to the how if you want honor, you have to honor. Honor, what we said here, comes through humility, right? We said honor is gained through humility, humbling yourself and coming into a place where you don't think you're better than someone else. It's where, I'm just a misfit. And I love the term, I'm just a misfit. And you may say, well, what is a misfit? What is a misfit? And really, we see the misfit back in Luke 14. and really on the second slide, where it says here, invite some people. This is it right here. This is what I want you to really get from tonight. Invite some people who never get invited out. The misfits from the wrong side of the tracks. You know, all of us are misfits. You know, matter of fact, there is a ministry, a church that I am completely in love with by the pastor is Chris Durso. And he has a misfit. He has a movement called the Misfits, New York City, NYC, the Misfits NYC. And they call themselves the Misfits. And I love it because I can see, of course, where they get it from. But the misfits are those that, you know, we're not perfect. We have blemishes. None of, you know, not all, really all of us are misfits. All of us. Every one of us is a misfit. But a lot of us, one, not a lot, but there are people, and it's and really when we look at our society, it's becoming a generational thing, and not just for one generation, but multi-generations, where, you know, we don't view ourselves as a misfit. We view ourselves as we're all perfect, got it all together, you know, and so because of that, you know, I deserve to be at the top. You know, I've worked myself to the top. I have made something of myself, you know, but really you've never made anything of yourself. God made something out of yourself. You've never made, I mean, honestly, what could you do without God? You know, and what happens, we get so consumed because we're so used to doing, you know, you know, well, it was done with my hands. You know, I worked, you know, I put all this work in the middle of the hour, and then, you know, in the late night hour, you know, I was doing this, I hustled, I did this, but it's like, okay, but if God never breathed life into you, you would never got that done. No, God woke you up. So what you're saying is you could have done all that while you were dead? No. You know, God woke you up, you know, and he's the one that put people in your path, and people that don't even give any honor to God, and they want to say, I did it all. No, but that's not how it works. And so here's what I want you to do. I want you to turn to 2 Corinthians 9, 6 through 9. Okay, this is not in this teaching, okay? But this is where we're going to end. This is actually the very end. 2 Corinthians 9, 6 through 9. Okay. And I'm going to read it in the English Standard Version. Okay. And this is going to go into this part, or this part, which is the heart of a giver. Okay. The heart of a giver, the heart of a giver. And some of the things that I'm talking about, I'm telling you guys, sometimes we really get it twisted. Sometimes we really forget how this whole thing works. You know, sometimes when we give, we're not really giving. We're giving with the idea of looking for a return. And we can see the heart of a giver, Dinner Etiquette 101, from this part right here. In Luke 14, we're going to go back. It says here, the kind of people who will return the favor, right? This is down here. When we give to the misfits, they won't be able to return the favor, but the favor will be returned. And really, it's going to be through what? How's it going to be returned? It's going to be returned through God. It's going to be returned through the idea of people being won to Christ and people seeing God's love because you're loving on them, because you're a misfit just like them. You know, you're just a misfit that just found God. You're a misfit that found your fit, you know, and that's really what it is. You know, I think that when we look at the idea of the return, you know, giving is not giving if you're looking for a return. You know, and if, I mean, when I say that when you're looking literally where I'm giving for something to be given back to me, you know, but what we need to see is this: you have to stop looking for people to bless you when God is the one who's going to do it. Stop giving oh, I'm going to support them because, you know what, I know that if I support them, they're going to support me back. No. When's the last time you gave and not looking for anything in return? You know, here's my thing. If you're going to give and you're looking for something in return, you don't need to give it all, because you know why? That's not giving. And so if you don't want to give, then just don't give. You know, if you don't want to give, then just don't give. But when we look at 2 Corinthians 9, 6 through 9, this is what we see. Okay, and I'm going to read this. Hopefully you got it somewhere on your Bible by now. But it says that the point is this: whoever sows sparingly, I'm going to go back to this so that we can just see this part right here, the heart of the giver. It says here, the point is this: whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. Each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion. For God loves a what? Cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work. As it is written, he has distributed freely. He has given to the poor. His righteousness endures forever. Okay. So again, it's the idea that, after we've learned basically for this whole almost an hour, what we're seeing is this, right? We're seeing that if you want to be a true giver, you cannot look for anything in return. Okay. You have to look for, I'm looking to serve people. I'm not looking to give because I'm looking for something back. I'm giving because I have a heart to serve. I have a heart to impact people so that, you know why, people can see God's love flowing through me. Okay, we learn what honor requires honor. So let's go over this. We learn that honor requires honor, right? And what honor comes through humility. Okay, we also learned that servanthood and the path to leadership. If I want to lead, like I need to start in the back, right? And there's nothing wrong with starting in the back. We talked about how it's all a part of the development process, how can you learn on how to operate things from the front if you don't know how to do it from the back? You have to learn on how to be an efficient servant. And the only way to serve, the only way to lead is to serve first. We also talked about the heart of a giver. If I'm going to give, I need to give, not reluctantly and not through being, a compulsive giver, just, sporadically, whatever. No, I'm giving because I have a true and a heart loving God, a God-guided capacity within me to give. I have a heart to give, and people who are filled with the heart of giving are those that are blessed the most. They really are. They're blessed the most because they realize that everything that God has given them is not just for them, but it's for other people. And so those that are true leaders are true givers. If you want to be a true leader, you need to be a true giver and not giving for a tax write-off. You're not giving because you want people to see you giving. You're not giving because you want, a better Facebook, cover page, and you want better pictures for your Instagram. No, you're giving because you want to give back. I see all these women, they travel to Dubai, they travel to, these Middle Eastern, because these are the trips now. I see people traveling to, do these these places, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying yourself, but you need to balance out those photos that we post with giving back to the community, showing God's love, spreading God's love on someone, telling people about Christ. I see people all the time, they post about things that God's blessing them with, but they rarely post about how they're pushing that stuff back out into the world so that people can really be won to Christ. What good is it for you to lavish in your riches when you can't even turn that back around and richly bless someone else? Okay, and the last part that we're going to talk about is the key to winning souls, which is the misfit. When we look at the passage in this Luke, and really in Luke 14, 7 through 14, we see this is the first part, and then this is the second part of 7 through 14. It's this last part. Of course, it's the whole passage, but when we read the passage, we see how this end part is really the kicker, because we see all this stuff going on. We see Jesus telling these people, you need to humble yourself. You need to be a person that is willing to, sit in the back and be fine with that. And, and you need to be a person that is content with yourself, loving yourself, so that you can truly embrace who God's made you to be. And then when we get to this part, we see here that what is the point of the dinner? What is the point of the dinner? The point of the dinner is to bring people in who don't look like you. It's to bring people in who wouldn't have normally even came to the dinner. We get so focused with hanging out with their Christian friends, and there's nothing wrong with hanging out with your Christian friends. But, in my opinion, if you've been hanging out with the same people and you have not won any people to Christ, you're hanging out with the wrong friends, because your friends aren't inspiring you to win souls to Christ. I feel like if you've been hanging out with Christian friends your whole time and you haven't won people to Christ, like I said before, it's a problem. Are you expanding your touch? Are you expanding your circle of influence? We talk about circle of influence. You hear it in business, you hear it in leadership all the time. My circle of influence, or my sphere of influence, excuse me. And it's just like, okay, but if no one's being touched with Jesus Christ, I don't care how many books you've written. I really don't. At this point, I'm not gonna say I'm kind of whole against it. I'm just saying, we talk about I've written this many books and I've spoken at this many events and I hear this huge list of accolades, and I'm saying, okay, well, out of all that you've done, how many people have been touched by God's power through your mouth? Oh, well, they've read my books. Well, I have a huge following. No. How many people have come to your dinner table? How many people have come to your dinner table and have feasted on God's love from your life? How many people? Not how many books that not your Instagram followers or how many likes you get per day. How many people have come to your dinner table and have been blessed by the God that's living on the inside of you? How many people? So let's look at these. Let's look at application time. And I just have some questions that I really want you to go over. I encourage you to go back to the, once the video is done, you can actually rewind and actually watch the whole thing over again. But if you want to, you can just kind of slide back to the last couple of minutes and just look at these questions, okay? These questions will be posted in the study packet. So I just wanted to pull out just a few. So how will you serve this week? In what ways can you be more humble? Are you busy changing into who God hasn't made you to be? And how can you better embrace who you are? Who are the servants in your life, and how can you follow in their footsteps? Jesus was the greatest servant of all. In what ways did he serve that has impacted your life for the better? Why does the world strive for self-made greatness? What does greatness mean in the world versus the definition of greatness when it comes to kingdom thinking? Remember, kingdom thinking means Christ-like thinking, right? The kingdom, right? We're in the kingdom of God. We are his chosen ones. That's the reason why I'm talking men of royalty, girls of royalty. We're in his kingdom. Have you ever tried to impress someone and you were not being yourself? How did you feel, and what was the outcome? So those are just some questions that you can just kind of mull over. And again, if you want to kind of go over what we just learned or whatever, this is what we learned, right? Honor requires honor, servanthood in the path to leadership, the heart of a giver, the key to winning souls, and the misfit. There's no point in you doing all that you do in life and the focus isn't the souls. I think that this whole series that's going to be coming up for these next couple of weeks is going to be great because, when I look at the branding and the design that we did for this series, guess who's coming in, and we see all these different faces. These are your neighbors. These are your coworkers. These are the people that you interact with on a daily basis. These are the strangers' faces. And each face here tells a story. There's a testimony. There's something behind each one of these faces. And you have the power. God has given you the power, right? To not just overcome the enemy, but to also impact people with his love that's living on the inside of you. And so when it says, guess who's coming to dinner, we're going to be talking about the hunger for God this month. We're going to talk about how we can not just increase our hunger for God, but also our hunger for people. I think that, we have to, in order to increase, of course, our hunger to win souls to Christ, we all have to increase our hunger for God. And so we're going to be talking about our hunger for God, but I wanted to set the stage on really what it meant to really serve, because see, now that we've understood what it means to serve and of course it's going to take a couple weeks for us to really get into this, but now that I've kind of laid the brickwork, the kind of the foundation on, leading and serving and how we have to just love ourselves and spend time loving on us so that we can love other people, and how we need to spend time on caring about the misfits because we are the misfits. We just found our fit, and how we're learning how to humble ourselves. Then we can figure out on how to increase our hunger, because there's no point, and I find this all the time. People who are truly hungry realize that there is a purpose, that there's something in their life that is worth living for. It's like when you come to Christ, your purpose lights up. You may not know exactly what God's called you to do, but you are at a point, you're somewhere where that, I at least have the purpose to spread love. I at least have the purpose to tell people about Jesus Christ. I at least have the purpose. So even if you don't know your specific purpose, you do have purposes that God gives to all of us generally. It's not like, each person has, no, we all have to spread gospel. We all need to tell people about his word and about the gospel of Jesus Christ. We all need to impact people and give to those in our community. These are things that we all need to do. And so it is just vital. It is important. It is imperative. It is just so important that we focus on, guess who's coming to dinner? Are you hungry for God's word? If you've said yes, and you've joined us for the perfect series, we're going to learn about what it means to love like God. We're going to learn what it means to have a hunger for God. We're going to learn what it means to really crave God, crave his word, crave the things of him, and then turn that craving into action so that we can actually spread whatever we've grown in him, how we can spread that to people who need to know more about him. Okay. So again, I just want you guys to have a wonderful evening. The packets will go out tomorrow, and they will be going out tomorrow. We're going to be I'm telling you, we're excited about this. They'll be going out to Men of Royalty and Girls of Royalty. So we do want to give a quick shout out. We do want to thank all the men who tuned in. This is our co-ed study, so we're very excited about this. The study packet and will guide that's going to be going out. It will be for men and women, like we said before. So you'll be able to, again, you can grab your male friends, your girlfriends, whoever wants to join you. You guys can, sit down and fill out the packets, fill out the study guides. Have your own little mini Bible studies, go into discussion. I think it's great that, even in your household, if you're married, if you have kids, that, you can even talk to your kids about serving like God, being a servant, teaching your child about humility, teaching your children about humility, maybe talking to your husband about, how you guys can serve each other better. Maybe if you're a single person, you may be teaming up with your friends and saying, you know what, this is how we're going to serve our communities better. This is how we're going to impact people, in a better way this summer. Maybe it's whatever way it is that you find out. I'm telling you, these study packets are a great launching pad to creating, your own studies, with your friends and with little groups, and really getting into this word. I mean, this word, it is true life. It is meat. It is truly meat. So it's not just saying, okay, who's hungry for dinner? But it's really, it's true. It fills you up, because now, it's like, as you're going through the week, it's kind of like things jump out to you now. Before you're just driving in your car, kind of grabbing your coffee. Now you're going to start looking around as you're grabbing coffee. You're going to start talking to people. Maybe you were shy before. Maybe you're already talkative like I am. But hopefully you will become more bold in your expression of God's love. You're going to start asking, well, hey, how you doing? How was your week? How you doing? Hey, oh, that happened. Wow, maybe you'll be able to share to them about the gospel of Jesus Christ. So it's very important that we begin to become aware of the misfits around us and how we're misfits and how God is using us. And most importantly, that we will stay humble and that we will learn that we cannot do anything without God. So I want you guys to have a great rest of your week. Again, if you're not a member, become a member. If you're a guy, head over to menofroyalty.com. If you're a girl, if you're a woman, head over to girlsroyalty.com. Sign up to become a member at each respective site, and you will get your packet tomorrow. Okay, so guys, have a blessed day and a blessed rest of your night. And we love you, and goodbye.